everything.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got it work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome to yet another edition of Lembertopic Live here on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is as best we can. We share the facts as best we can establish them, and also our opinions, but now the two shall meet. So when I do express my point of view, I will say, in my opinion. You see what I did there? But you are also entitled to have yours. Success for me is that this informs your worldview, and also that you inform mine and ours here at the station. If you've got a TV idea, then you let us know. We'd love to hear it. And thank you, as I always say, for the increasing numbers of you who are watching. If you like what we do, then like it and repost it as well. Very flattering when you do. Thanks very much. We've got a record number of reposts yesterday for something which I'll be playing in the show today as well, actually. A rather lightweight Benny Hill type take on Keir Starmer's position on migration. Some other big shows will be starting soon. If you're watching this live, then look forward to Tim Scott Uncancelled, which will be going out pretty soon. He's the head of the Freedom Association with his very own show here on Unprecedented TV. That seems like a good fit. And we have a monster interview. We're currently negotiating with a very big and some would say outspoken name in the world of politics. But all of that to come. If you're watching this as a rerun rather than the live version, then you can get a lot of things on archive as well. And you're most welcome to have a browse of that. All of it for now is free. You can see that at Unprecedented TV on YouTube and also, of course, on X. And finally, if you want to have a chat with me, then after the show, I usually have a good look at what the comments are for the station and also for the specific programs. So much to do, so little time to do it. Let me start with today's program. And that's the question of whether you think we should be investing in net zero. That's the reduction of carbon dioxide emissions by the United Kingdom to zero from human beings. Or do you think we should be paying for the reduction in crime? Now, as you know, if you're watching regularly, I don't think there is a climate emergency. I think the climate changes. It always has changed. The climate deniers are the people who think we can stop that natural process. Indeed, it's quite unnatural to try to stop the natural climate change cycles. But here's the problem. It costs an absolute fortune to try to reduce our minuscule contribution to the climate and specifically carbon dioxide. But yet we are willing to spend billions, actually trillions, in the vain attempt to do so because of Ed Miliband, who in my view is intellectually challenged on the whole subject. Meanwhile, crime is spiralling out of control. Sadiq Khan, the useless mayor of London, in my opinion, promised to reduce knife crime, but it's actually gone up quite substantially. I've had 2 phones stolen in central London. It is an absolute scourge. Do not go to London if you want to be safe. That's my advice to you. Wherever you're watching in the world, find somewhere nicer to go, which is safer, even in the UK. But London is now a crime zone central, I'm sorry to say. So my opinion is that the climate hoax should be junked and law and order should be taken much more seriously. But don't take my word for it. Let's talk to somebody who is a little bit more experienced about these things and as outspoken as me, I suggest, is Justine Thomas from Reform UK. Justine, very good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm absolutely fabulous, Lembit. I'm over here in sunny Norfolk, a very nice part of the world to live in. The climate's very nice, and I have to say we don't have huge amounts of crime in Norfolk, so we are blessed in some ways, whereas I know in other parts of the country are much more blighted by crime. I'm very interested in your take about the is it a climate emergency or not? I think we stand in the same square on the climate emergency. I think one man's emergency is another man's virtue signal. Personally, I think we've got a crime emergency, and I think despite what other political parties, other political commentators want to say, and what I'm hearing that crime figures are down, I think it's very, very clear to the average person in the street that crime is not down. And it's very clear to me from people that I speak to that they feel very, very unsafe. I actually noted last night the Adam Smith Institute has just released a study that they did. And they did a poll of adults age 18 to 30, and 61% of those young adults were concerned about violent crime where they live. And the interesting thing about that poll was it was a cross-party poll. So Labour, the Greens, Reform, and across the nation, we have got people who are absolutely, really, really concerned about the rise of not just violent crime, but also petty crime in our society. And they want something done about it.
I notice from your label there, woman, that you probably aren't very woke. That's a compliment. I don't think anyone's ever described themselves with that pronoun before. Is it a pronoun? It's not a pronoun, it's a noun, actually. And I have to say, I salute you for that. It's a total distraction, but I noticed there's some kind of a huge furore in America about a woman called Sydney Sweeney, who I only learned the existence of yesterday. But
she's got great genes.
She's got great genes. Yes, that's right. If you're not sure what we're talking about, just put Sydney Sweeney, great genes, and you'll see what we're discussing there. American Eagle, making a lot of money out of that. So anyway, I salute you for that. You've been quite forthright in terms of what you've said there, in terms of crime. Is it true to say that crime is going up across the country? In London, I have no doubt whatever that it is. I actually had a phone stolen outside Charing Cross police station, outside it. And they said, well, you're not going to get it back. I said, you got it on CCTV. It's on your CCTV. Yeah, well, we're not going to get it back. I can trace the phone up to North London. You're not going to get it back, sir. And a crime number. What's the point?
Yeah, and I think that is part of the problem. So, you know, of course, there are lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. And, you know, I can throw one set of figures at you and you can throw another set of figures at me. I think the public's perception of what is happening with regards to crime is actually as important as whatever the statistics are saying, because perception doesn't come from nowhere. Perception just does not come from a vacuum. People are finding, and they're hearing anecdotal stories, for example, you know, things like you say, you've had your phone stolen. The police are not prepared to investigate crime. Well, the police seem prepared to investigate some sorts of crimes. Thought crime seems to be something that the police are often very, very interested in prosecuting and in trying to catch the perpetrators of these terrible thought crimes. But actually, what about real criminal offences? And I think the police often do get a bad rap. I think the average Bobby on the beat is really, or the average Bobby in the car or sat behind a desk. I think those people in the main are really trying to do a good job, and they have a very, very difficult job. They have to deal with very violent people, very difficult people. You know, they face a lot of problems when they're actually out in the street. But what we need from the police service, from the higher levels of the police service, is a real commitment to actually showing a real show and tell. Show the people that I talk to who are telling me that they feel the police are not interested in them, in their community, in crime being committed in their community. And that might work to help change people's perceptions of what they think the crime rate is. But I think there's no doubt we're living in an increasingly lawless society. We've got higher rates of offending across the board in terms of police reported crime. And I think one of the problems we've got as a society is we've become a society that tolerates low-level offending. If you start to tolerate low-level offending, what you're doing is you're providing a gateway for people to start to go on and commit more serious offences. Because if I just drop, say, litter in the street, I mean, yes, you could be fined for dropping litter. But if somebody drops litter in the street, or if they go and steal a ham sandwich from Tesco, stealing your mobile phone, which is hardly a victim-free offence. You know, there is a cost involved. You've got to pay for insurance. I'm helping underwrite your insurance costs. We're all paying for crime, every single one of us, even if we're not a direct victim of crime. And ultimately, we have got to, as a society, start to really, really think about what do we want to invest money in as taxpayers, as contributors to our society. What are the things that are most important to us? What are the emergencies? And I would argue that crime is the emergency, not the climate.
The Ministry for Hurty Words will put people in prison for admittedly unwise commentary in social media, and they'll put you in within days. But apparently, if you're a Labour councillor called Ricky Jones, you can wait a year for your case to go to trial after saying, let's cut their throats and get rid of them. I think that's almost exactly the quote, something he said about people he didn't like. Total two-tier policing there. Let's just have a look at this. And this, I think, is about the phone crime.
In seconds, mobile phone thieves are getting more, well, mobile on mopeds and bikes every day. There are hundreds of victims.
I was on my phone just texting. A boy came, cycled up behind me and just snatched the phone out of my hand, and it just went off with it basically.
Today, research revealed around 90% of phone users now see theft as a big worry. This morning came the launch of a new idea that might just help.
This is it, a brightly coloured strip near the curbside designed to grab your attention before somebody can come by and grab your phone. And it's been trialled here on one of the very worst streets for phone snatching.
London's Oxford Street is at the heart of an area where phone thefts average one every 15 minutes.
Aren't we getting this the wrong way around? We're trying to affect the behaviour of the phone users rather than the behaviour of the criminals.
We know that most mobile phone theft snatching happens in grabbing distance from the road. So that visual prompt to remind people to be aware of where they're walking, to help educate and make people more aware, can only be a good thing.
Well, I'm not sure what you think about that. I'm not convinced, really.
Well, look, educate people, make them more aware. It's just the classic line, is it? What about actually go out and catch some bloody criminals? What about let's find the people who are actually perpetrating these offences? Let's get them into the system. Let's have some good, well-trained, well-funded coppers. Let's have coppers who can go out and actually catch these criminals. Let's have a CPS that can actually prosecute criminals and can do it well because they've employed the brightest and the best people because they are paying well. Let's have a court system, and particularly in the lower level courts, there's a lack of legal advisors, which is causing such a strain on the justice system. We've got court cases that aren't coming to trial till 2027. So when you're talking about Ricky Jones, I'm not surprised. That's just the backlog in the court system. So we've got all of these different
Well, hold on. It can't just be that, because they were able to put that woman, I think she was called Lucy Connolly. Yeah, into prison within days because she made an ill-advised comment, let's call it, on social networks. She was in prison within days. Yeah. Whereas Ricky Jones, who was talking about slitting people's throats, has been walking free for a year.
Exactly.
Now, I think one of the problems here is that it's not just backlog, it's the deep politicization of what is considered a crime. Hurty words, you go down. Encouraging people to slit people's throats, well, that can hold on for a year.
How can crimes against a person be considered less of an offence or less important than crimes, than a written crime, or as you call it, hurty words which didn't lead to any kind of violence, although there was a suggestion in terms of the charge. That's what the charge of Lucy Connolly related to. And part of the reason her case was dealt with very quickly is she actually pled guilty to the offence. When people don't plead guilty to an offence, one of the problems that we have is that cases take so long to get to court that often the trials start to fall apart because witnesses leave the country, they die, they don't want to be involved anymore, they've maybe got over it, and now they're not willing to participate in a trial. And what that means is offenders are ultimately getting away with it. With regards to the video that you showed with the strip, with the educating people, you know, to me, I actually find that that is a form of victim blaming. What that is saying is you need to take this action to stop you being a victim of crime. Now, of course, we're all doing that day to day. When I leave my house, I lock my house. I don't leave all my doors and windows open. But actually, I'd make the analogy that that purple line on the street is no different to outside a nightclub telling women not to wear short skirts because they might get raped. What is the difference? And that is a complete and utter waste of time. The money should be invested in finding people who are committing these offences, because ultimately, yes, if we stop a few people having their phones nicked, that's got to be a good thing. But the people who want to go and commit these crimes are still out committing the crimes elsewhere, quite frankly. And it's finding these people, it's getting them through the system, it's dealing with them appropriately. And ultimately, the longer term goal with offending is to, at the other end, we have people who come out of the justice system who've been sentenced, they've been punished, but also, in my view, we need to look much more at rehabilitation and ensuring that when people do come out of prison, if they're given custodial sentences, that they don't actually reoffend, because reoffending rates in the UK, depending on who you listen to again and over what time period, anywhere between 20 and 40%. Well, I don't want people coming from custodial sentences committing more crimes. So we definitely need to invest more money across the board in the justice system. And quite frankly, scrapping net zero would fund the lot of it. So, you know, my point is, what is your emergency? What's your immediate concern? I have a 2-year-old grandson. Yes, you know, I don't want him in 80 years' time when he's got his own grandchildren. Maybe the world will be a hotter place. Maybe the seas will have risen. I have no idea. But what I do know is that potentially in the next 10 years, he could be a victim of a serious crime. That's much more prescient to me, and it's much more pressing.
I'm going to see if we can find, we were talking, I'm going to be a bit sneaky. I'll see if the team can get this. But the Australia snow video, if you can find it, that would be great. I'm going to indulge myself a little bit because my favourite subject is the climate hoax, because it's so utterly preposterous. I've
seen this photo, actually, yes.
Which, you mean of I think it was in Queensland.
Yes, Snowy Oz, yes.
The worst snow in 40 years, I think it was. We were having a look at that before the show. Go on.
Which, while you're waiting for them, here's a thing for you in terms of the justice system and the cost of the justice system and where we invest money. So think back between the 17th, 19th century, we exported something like 170,000 convicts and ne'er-do-wells to Australia. And we were quite happy to export those people. But now we're quite happy. We've got 10,000 foreign criminals sat in our prisons that you and I are paying for. Taxpayers are footing the bill for. Why are we not shipping all these people back to their own countries? Shabida Mahmood's letting out violent criminals last year. 1,100 violent criminals were let out early. And we've got people who could be serving their sentences in their own country. Get rid of them, deport them, put them away.
While they're looking at the climate stuff, we'll come back to that if we've got time. Here's what the Home Secretary has been saying about this, and it's ridiculous.
Border security measures making it harder to come to the UK. Migrants who are convicted of from claiming asylum. Loads of live updates in the studio for you tonight. Catherine Nash is here now. Hi, Catherine. So let's start with why they're doing this.
Well, these changes, Dan, are basically an extension to legal framework that already actually exists in the UK. So at the moment, if a migrant seeking protection here has committed a serious crime and has been given a prison sentence of a year or more, then they are refused refugee status. But under these new proposals, this refusal system will be extended further so that foreign nationals who have committed a sex offence are on the sex offenders register, regardless of the length of the sentences they've received. They won't be granted it either, nor will foreign nationals who've committed sex offences abroad.
OK, so, and why are the government making these changes now?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons, really. I mean, the government has always said that it wants to show people that the UK's asylum system has high standards in terms of who it grants that status to. It's also keen on demonstrating just how serious it is in tackling sex offending and also violence against women and girls, which is a huge issue. In fact, the Home Secretary even cited a case that happened last year as a reason for making this amendment to the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, which is what this all is part of.
We had the awful case last year of Abdul Azedi, who committed the terrible acid attack in Clapham, who had been granted asylum in 2020 despite the fact that he'd been on the sex offender register for 10 years. I just think that is wrong. And
now there's a problem with that, OK? There's Yvette Cooper, Justin, telling us that. But how do we know who's committed a crime abroad when they're throwing their passports and their identities into the sea?
Exactly.
When they're coming across a channel?
Exactly. It's utterly ridiculous. And, you know, ultimately, my opinion is if the first act that you commit when you enter this country is to break the law, which is to enter the country illegally, you should not be allowed to stay in the country. There should be a law that says that you are automatically barred from claiming asylum if you enter the country illegally. And it's not just people on small boats. Of course, that argument goes to people who overstay visa claims, who overstay visas, which of course is a massive problem. I'm not familiar with that system. I don't know what sort of background checks are done on people who actually apply here on work visas, although I know there's been several exposés recently which have shown that people have there are people who are enabling people to come here, charging them 50 grand and giving them fake documentation. I've seen fake documentation from hospitals who don't even exist anymore. I mean, the whole thing is a complete and utter joke. People who enter here illegally should be deported. We have in the UK a long-standing tradition of people, of immigration, of people coming into our country and of providing asylum to people who are in genuine need. People who cross on small boats who overstay visas, to me, they're not genuine asylum seekers. And the other point I would make, actually, and it's a bit more of a sort of philosophical and academic point, is actually, and I am very much on the right wing of the centre of British politics, where this issue is in particular. But
you're far right. You're far right. That'll be a crime soon.
I'm just right, Lembit. But the problem is people like me get accused of being far right. But I'm a deeply compassionate person. I want to care for vulnerable people. We should take care of vulnerable people in our society. But that doesn't mean that we should open our doors to people who are basically coming in to take the mickey. And with regards to this change in the legislation, I would argue that there is actually a fundamental philosophical flaw in that, because if you believe that the asylum law as it stands works and on the basis of what the asylum laws are, that we should be granting asylum to people, then surely naturally the consequence follows that if that's of your viewpoint, that would be a blanket asylum. So why would you be bothered if people are sex offenders? You're either worthy of asylum because of the nature of where you've come from and the circumstances in which you find yourself in, or you're not. So there's a little bit of a self-defeating argument there. It's, as I say, it's a bit of a kind of out there academic point. I'm sure we could, I could sit and talk about that little thing for hours. But ultimately, these people shouldn't be here in the first place. They should be detained and they should be deported. It's as simple as that.
As a bit of fun, my team I asked them to put together a short, roughly 1 minute video of their perception of Keir Starmer's policy on migration. Let's see if we can we play that?
Will fall. That's a promise. Nobody should be getting in a small boat to cross over the channel. Inward migration is already falling with this government. And we will take back control of our border.
That's a promise. Thank you.
Well, it's a bit of fun, but it more or less sums it up.
Well, I was laughing. The man's a laughing stock. The man is a complete and utter laughing stock. He's not a leader. He's completely rudderless. He's unprincipled. And that's why he's not the right person to deal with this crisis. And it is a crisis. And, you know, we talk about immigration. When we talk about crime, we've got plenty of homegrown criminals. You know, not every migrant, illegal or otherwise, who comes to the UK is an offender or potential offender. There are plenty of British people who offend, but I think it's really, really important that we invest money in the justice system to ensure that we all have a safer place to live in. If you want your family, your community, your country to be safe, you're going to have to pay for it. And if you don't want to pay more tax, you're going to have to take money from elsewhere. And I would suggest that taking money from the lunacy that is net zero is the single most obvious place of where to get the funds from.
We've got the Queensland video, I think. Can we play the Queensland video?
Rarely seen on this part of the globe.
That's beautiful. It's lovely. And yeah, I've never seen anything like this before. It's gorgeous.
Several towns in eastern Australia were blanketed with their thickest layer of snow in 40 years. New South Wales, the country's most populous state, reported as much as 50 centimeters of accumulation in its northern region. The state's emergency service said it responded to more than 1,400 incidents, including 100 vehicles stranded in snow. In other areas,
well, you see, this is the thing. Now that you don't hear the climate catastrophists talking about this. What's interesting, incidentally, is there have been quite a set of weather events, not necessarily climate events, but weather events in the southern hemisphere, including in South Africa, where I have friends, and they've been getting snow when they're not used to it. It could be that there's the cooling, which is inevitable. There's going to be a cooling event very soon. It may have started, but no one can tell me what we've just seen in Queensland's global warming. And yet we've got a government which wants to put hundreds of billions, actually trillions, into cutting carbon dioxide. Well, as you say, the real problem, things like crime, the real problems just don't get addressed. Before we go away from this, where do you think this is? Have a guess.
Oh, I don't know. Scotland, Wales.
Yeah, it's Scotland in June. Snow dust, Scotland's highest mountaintops.
People will argue that is because of climate change. I mean, recently when there was that tsunami, wasn't there, a couple of weeks ago? I read an article and some expert had put a comment in saying, "Wes, you know, we're going to see more of these earthquakes because of climate change." So this is just preposterous. We're on it. This is a billion-year-old piece of rock. How, you know, I'm going to be gone in 50 years. The human race will probably be gone in 500 years, 1,000 years. I hope it's not. But, you know, the whole thing about climate change for me is, I'll just say briefly, is people talk about saving the planet. They don't need to save the planet. People need to save themselves, because actually it's humanity is suffering an existential crisis, particularly in the West, because we've lost sight of who we are. We've lost our gods. We don't know who we are anymore. We've lost our spirituality because none of us go to church anymore. Or many of us don't. And, you know, this is one of those things that people can latch onto as a form of religion. And it is like religious zealotry as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, don't try and save the planet. Maybe try and save the human race, and actually focus on your community. And things like crime and the things that impact people in the immediacy, you know, they're the most important things to focus on. If you want to save yourself, do that.
I knew we wouldn't get deeply enough into this. There's so much more to talk about with this. My opinion is pretty much the same as yours. It's utterly ridiculous to invest in trying to cut carbon dioxide. It's just dumb. Carbon dioxide is our friend. It's a gas of life. I've been doing an experiment with sunflower seeds and my kids to show them how things work. And they understand that the plants eat carbon dioxide and then they grow. But I won't go into the biology lecture now. I want to finish on one other thing. It's an interesting one in Reform UK. Vanessa Frake, who has been on my show, she has now joined Reform. But she said something quite interesting, and this is what she said. Vanessa Frake, Reform UK's newly appointed Justice Advisor, states that trans women should not be automatically barred from female prisons. Now, that seems to go against what the court ruling was, namely, the men are men and women are women. And you make a fairly clear and unambiguous statement by calling yourself woman. What do you make of what Vanessa Frake said? I'm going to get her onto the show because I really want to ask her about this. But what's your take on this?
I was really, I've seen her on the news rounds over the last few days, and I think she comes across as being an incredibly knowledgeable and talented woman. And I think, you know, Reform UK are very lucky to have her. She's clearly very experienced in her subject matter. I think one thing that I would say, I would differ with her. I do not agree that men should be in women's prisons, and trans women, to me, they are men. What I do think, though, is that safeguarding in prisons is very, very important. So I do not subscribe to the view that we just toss people into jail and that's it, let them all fight it out amongst themselves. And safeguarding is very, very important. Where I disagree with Vanessa is I think that a man who is a trans woman should actually have the appropriate safeguarding in a male prison. But I do not agree that a male should be in a woman's prison. I just think it's fundamentally wrong. And even if it's not an intact male, a man who has gone through puberty has the bone, the muscle strength, etc., of a man. So, you know, you can't change sex. There are no genders as far as I'm concerned. There's two biological sexes. But yeah, ultimately, I think men should be in men's prisons, women should be in women's prisons. But absolutely, within the prison system, we must always be safeguarding prisoners, because that is a duty of care that we have, not only to those people, but also we have to think about the release of those prisoners. And if we're not safeguarding people properly in prison, obviously that's wrong as a society. But ultimately, what impact does that have on reoffending rates when the person leaves prison?
I'm not sure where I stand on this, because I have long ago abandoned faith in the mainstream media, including the newspapers. But I will ask Vanessa to come on, and it'll be an interesting conversation. Let's wrap this up with you giving a platform. If you were the Home Secretary, what changes would you make, Justine?
If I was the Home Secretary, it's about investment. So I would be looking for more money to invest in the justice system. It's not a question of, it's not, there's lots of money, we just need to divert money. The justice system has been woefully underinvested in. We need to invest in police. We need more police officers. We need to invest in the court system. We need to invest in the prison system, in probation system. And also, we really, really need to invest in early intervention programs to stop young people entering into a life of crime, which have proved to be really, really effective. So I think we definitely need more money. And yeah, as I've highlighted before, why have we got a prison system full of people who should not even be in the country? So deport all foreign criminals, regardless of what the offence is. I'm not interested in your Article 8, rights to private and family life. If you want to live in this country, you need to be a valuable member of society, and you shouldn't be out committing crime and expect to get away with it and to live within our society and to live in my community. I don't accept that, and I will not subscribe to that.
Well, woman, aka Justine Thomas of Reform UK, thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Fascinating to hear her views. Yeah, you can have yours as well. Go to the X, go into the chat, and in a short while we'll have a look at that. Big thank you to the team for rustling up that Queensland video in very short order, and for knocking together that, I suppose, Benny Hill tribute, not so much a tribute to Keir Starmer. If you've got views on this as well, get in touch. We're very interested in your program ideas as well. There's still some spaces we're putting the schedules together, and things are going to get a whole lot more formal here in terms of that scheduling in the recent future. You can also go to the archive. Perhaps you're watching this from the archive now. Love to know your feedback there as well. And if you do like it, then like it in a social media way, and feel free to repost or retweet. The station is expanding. We're already on YouTube and obviously on X, but we're going to go further as well. We see ourselves as the home of free speech central, if you like. So once again, thanks for watching. Have your say. I'm Lembatopic, and this was Lembatopic Live on Unprecedented TV.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got to work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages,